Good day, D-bags. Vu of Envu Films, back with another video. And today, I want to make this video just because I just want to be productive while I'm driving. But the topic of the day is Sony and what Sony needs to do to be able to maintain its stranglehold, its grip on the ballsack of the camera industry. I think we could all agree that Sony, in terms of like this mirrorless space, hybrid, film and photography space, videography, content creation space, Sony is the king of the douchebaggery we call content creation, video creation, whatever, bunch of dudes and girls and dudes who think they're a dude or girl are out there filming content for social media, pretending that they are award-winning filmmakers. So I'm a Sony D-bag, okay? I'm a Sony B Alpha fanboy D-bag through and through. Okay, all right. Shooting Sony since 2014. That's pretty much when I started doing this stuff, and I don't know anything else. Okay, I tried Fuji, X-T3, X-T4 for a bit when I was trying to get some 4K 60, 10-bit action before Sony A7S III came out. But I found that experience a little bit clunky. Autofocus was definitely not as reliable as I was used to. So that was that. Other than that, never really messed around any cameras. But I'm here to discuss, what Sony needs to do going forward from here to maintain its top status, fully erected status of camera world domination. And yes, some will argue, well, Panasonic is doing this, that, and the other. I've heard it in my comments and my other YouTube videos, whether it be YouTube videos of me discussing the new Panasonic S5 Mark IIX, or videos of me just completely not discussing it at all, but somehow Panasonic fanboys weave their way through the comments just telling me how good Panasonic is and how shitty Sony is. Somehow they are my most loyal subscribers. Like, how do you even, clearly you don't like me. How are you still getting my content on your feed? And why are you watching it to the point where you're responding to it with a comment is beyond my comprehension. And there are a lot of things I just can't explain in life. There's a lot of things that are unexplainable in this world. Bigfoot, UFOs, why people buy f4 lenses. Just stuff that is beyond my comprehension that I'll probably never find out. And I'll make sure I'll ask Jesus if I ever get to heaven. So here is the deal, okay? Sony needs to do these things to maintain top form. And a couple of them, to me, are a bit overhyped out there in the world, but I'm gonna just, I have no list, I don't know how many I'm gonna have, I'm just, spitting it out of my mouth as I go. And the first couple that comes to mind is time code. However they want to implement that, okay? Something that a lot of filmmakers out there, losing their minds over. Something else would be shutter angle, which to me is just, I understand its use, okay? I understand that it is, I guess once you start getting into it, it's hard to, go back. But the reality is you're just multiplying a number by 2. And, I don't really see too many Asian YouTubers complain about shutter angle. I don't have a problem with it, and maybe it's because we're good at math and we know that 24 times 2 is 48, okay? And the closest shutter speed we have to that is 1/50. So that's what we're gonna go with. Simple math, right? 48, you round up, you get 50. You leave it at that if you're shooting somebody's interview, and you're done. 4K, you're shooting 4K 60 or something, 60 frames per second, whatever, D-bag camera you have. You know that 60 times 2 is 120, right? I know some of you who aren't Asian probably pulling out your calculators to double check my work. It's 120. And then you look at your camera and the closest shutter speed is 125. So you round up, you go to 125 and you're good to go. You're set for the whole entire wedding day. You could crank that shutter as long as it's, not under 125. You'll be able to do it. You'll be able to apply that slow motion in post, no problem. Or you could put an ND, or if you have internal ND, whatever. Good to go. But, if Sony wants to continue to lure new camera nerds in, or lure other camera fanboys over to Sony, they're gonna have to put shutter angle in there, just because there is a demand for it from dudes who failed at basic elementary school mathematics. The next thing would be open gate recording. And I myself don't really give too much of a shit for open gate when I'm filming behind the camera, like I'm filming something, because I'm controlling my composition. There's not much reframing I'm gonna do. I'm actively reframing. When I'm filming like an interview, I am filming with the person, I already set everything up, lighting, composition, the angles and all that stuff. I'm not gonna, really have a desire to go back in there to like mess around with anything. And I understand, the use case for open gate is if you want to do vertical and horizontal content without losing any resolution on your IG reel that probably uploads at 720p anyway on people's 1080p phone screens. So, that is neither here nor there. I get the importance of open gate, and I've used that before because I shoot on GoPro on my chest when I do go fishing for my fishing channel. I shoot that in open gate, but in the GoPro, for some reason they call it full frame, but it's open gate. You're using the whole sensor, and I'm able to make horizontal and vertical content, and actually do keyframing to animate around the frame when I'm doing horizontal, so that I get like a different view, because I'm not really controlling everything. I'm just having it on my chest and it's just kind of shooting whatever. So open gate is important there when you're just blindly shooting kind of, and you're not able to control every single aspect of your composition. That's when open gate is really helpful. And that is something they need to do. And to be quite honest, this is probably a firmware thing they can do. Like literally, unfortunately, if they did that, it'll probably kill their sales. But literally, firmware update on their camera, they could get freaking shutter angle in there. They could get shutter. They could get literally firmware update. They could get shutter angle in there. They could get time code, whatever in there, and they could do open gate in there, all with the firmware update. They don't even have to release a new camera to do that. But knowing what Sony's been doing, they probably won't. And probably the next camera they come out with, FX4 or whatever, FX3 Mark II, that's probably going to have all that action in there. Or if there's a camera, if Sony's going to do it, they're probably going to put it in the next big camera release, maybe FX4 or FX3 Mark II or Sony A7S4, if they're even going to do that anymore. But yeah, that's how they're going to compete. And I guess the other things they'll need to add is all those other little nitty-gritty things that all Panasonic fanboys talk about. The monitoring and all that bullshit. DCI, things of that nature, and like all their cameras going forward. But I'll tell you one thing that is really highly overrated, that Sony recently did on their FX3 and FX30. And I don't know if it's because the Sony screens, are small or whatever, and, not great resolution. And I'll come back to that in a second. But the whole, like, anamorphic D-squeeze is functionality on, these mirrorless cameras. It's, from my experience, largely bullshit. Because regardless if I am filming with the anamorphic lens with no D-squeeze or with D-squeeze on the FX3, I cannot see jack shit anyway. I cannot tell if something's in focus with focus peaking, whatever, especially if I'm trying to shoot like f2.8, f1.8, whatever, to get the bokeh and the depth of field I desire. I don't know if it's because I'm an old Asian piece of trash, 39, got gray beards, my penis probably went from 1 inch to like 9/10 of an inch, over the past year. It's unfortunate. I'm getting old. My vision is all jacked up. So maybe I can't see that well, but no matter if the camera had D-squeeze or not in it, I'm gonna need, if I'm shooting anything manual focus, I'm gonna need a freaking monitor. I cannot tell jack shit when it's D-squeezed or when it's not. And when it's D-squeezed, you're talking about this squarish, rectangular screen. All of a sudden you only see like a strip of footage, and good luck to you getting anything in focus or knowing if anything's in focus at that level of size, and I hope Sony realizes that. And the next thing they need to upgrade is their camera screen, because Sony is notorious for just having some shitty ass camera screens. And for odd reason, the FX30 has a better screen than FX3, but the FX30 screen, still not great. It is still pretty much just trash, for lack of a better word. I mean, I'm so used to it now. I'm so used to Sony cameras, and I know when it's in focus and stuff, when I'm using autofocus. There's a reliability, there's a trust there now. So really, I don't have too much of a problem with it. But for a company that creates cell phones that has 4K screens, and for a company that makes massive, 4K, 8K TVs, they have all this technology, and on their cameras, they put like the shittiest screens possible. It's appalling. And I don't know if they have some type of deal with Atomos and shit that, they're doing this to make sure Atomos still gets money. Because I feel like if they wanted to, they could just like put a big ass touch screen in the back, and, we'll all be done with, And, to be honest, how much are you willing to pay more for like a really like badass screen on your camera? Like, I think I would be willing to pay $500, more on a camera if the screen was just beastly already built in. To let me know if you agree, because you're gonna have to end up going out and buying an external monitor. If you want to do like external recording or whatever, that's gonna cost you $500 anyway. So I don't know if there's some type of deal going on where they're just holding back so that Atomos and shit still makes money. And I don't know if they're, have some type of deal with Panasonic, like hold back on like some of these features so that Panasonic could still sell some cameras, because Panasonic uses Sony sensors, and clearly they're buying a bunch of Sony sensors. Sony's making money off of whatever Panasonic is doing. So yeah, I don't know if there's some type of like backdoor deal action where Sony, won't do certain things just so like the competition, just so Panasonic could still produce cameras and Sony still makes money. It's beneficial to them. Atomos paying them, some money. I don't know what's going on. And I don't know if they can do internal NDs if they maintain IBIS. Now, IBIS and internal NDs and stuff, I've heard that it's hard to put, or maybe impossible to put, in internal ND with IBIS. So maybe it's not possible, but that is something they might need to look into, where maybe if there's a way for internal NDs to work when you turn off IBIS, and then so it gives the user the option to use either or. And speaking of IBIS, maybe just, I don't really have a problem with Sony's IBIS. I think IBIS is to help stabilize footage, but not eliminate camera shakes, because I think a lot of times when you're shooting handheld, you kind of want that like slightly not completely stable look. That's the whole purpose of that, or else you just sit on a tripod or something. So and even as good as like Panasonic IBIS is, when you go with the wide angle lens, you still get a lot of wobbly wobs. And then it's not like you could actually do gimbal moves. When I'm talking about gimbal moves, I'm talking about like moving sideways, doing all these pans, Michael Bay type shit. You can't do that handheld with IBIS. It's not going to look right. You're going to get all these shakes regardless. So you still need a gimbal. And if Sony wants to do this, maybe they just need to have an option in there that like cranks up IBIS to like Panasonic levels, and just let those wobbles happen, because I think Sony does it to the point where they take it as far as they can with IBIS, so that you don't get any wobble. So if you watch, like, you look at Sony's footage, it is not as like quote unquote stable as like Panasonic in especially like telephoto, but you'll see that at wide angle it's actually very stable and there's no wobbles. Sony actually, in my opinion, has probably the better like super wide angle IBIS, because it's stable and you don't see any wobbles. But the IBIS at telephoto range, like 50mm, is definitely not as good as Panasonic. But I think Panasonic's IBIS is a lot more aggressive, because there's no secret here. IBIS is just, it's just leveling itself off, whatever. And that technology is that, and I think Panasonic's is just more aggressive than what Sony does, and that's why it is what it is. And they should just throw it in there, have like a different super IBIS mode in there. I don't know, super active stabilization 69, and just have that thing just be like Panasonic, just to appease people and have people like, oh yeah, I'm going to switch over. And again, do I think I need this? No. I'm just saying, if they want to continue their grip on the testicles of the camera industry, they're going to have, there's some things I think they need to do to maintain that. And they're really focused on the AI stuff. Autofocus is crazy. To be quite honest with you, if they didn't even touch the autofocus anymore after, like, I don't know, Sony A7 S3 was released, I wouldn't even complain, because to me there was nothing wrong with their autofocus. Even with animal eye detect or whatever, I had never had a problem. Actually, I had never had a problem with autofocus even with A7 III, to be quite honest with you. But when they introduced touch tracking, I was like, yo, this is legit. And I've never had a problem with it. So, but they keep improving it, so whatever. But other than that, man, the obvious things would be probably just move on to like a something 6K, 8K 60, 6K 60, just future-proof stuff, and just to maintain on top of the game. But the reality is, if they just kept like Sony A7S III sensor, 13 stops at dynamic range, and just included these type of improvements, I would personally be fine with it. But look, especially right now. But hey, look, I get it. You gotta like compete with these other companies, so throw 6K in there, 8K, just so it's there. And yeah, like that's what for video. In terms of photo, I mean, there's not too much else you can improve for photography, right? Like, honestly, I think photography, these incremental improvements in photography cameras still isn't as large as what video guys would need, because as of right now, like, it's impossible not to get a good photo with your camera. Like, autofocus is on point, super fast, got like tons of dynamic range in raw photos. You know, there's not too much else you could do with photography. You know, so right now, you just keep pushing through with these new video specs and all this craziness. That is the ticket to maintaining, you know, the top spot in the camera industry. And I think like every camera they release should just have like the same microphone technology as the Sony ZV-E1, where the microphones as is quite usable if you're trying to vlog and capture certain like sounds. It's quite good, and to me, most of the time I feel like when I'm doing videos like this, even though I do have a Sony ECM like small little like Sony mic on it right now, I probably don't even need it, to be quite honest with you. If I just use the audio just directly on the Sony ZV-E1, they should just include that in all their cameras. Yeah, other than that, I mean, I think the one main thing they just have to improve, like without a shadow of a doubt, is their damn screen. Like, because a lot of these other things are software and sensor related. The one thing they have to really focus on is just give, you know, especially video shooters, like a good ass screen, because their screens are trash, especially compared to like Panasonic, Canon, and all that stuff. That's like the one thing I always get jealous of when I work with like photographers at weddings, and they're mostly shooting Canon, right? And then they like show me like some of the pictures they take, and the first thing that I notice is the damn screen. I'm just like, golly, like that's some really nice contrast, and that screen looks really good. And then like I would take the same picture with my Sony camera, and I'm like, yo, like that picture looks horrible. But then I go, you know, home, I put it on like my computer screen, and I'm like, oh shit, like this photo looks nice, you know, it's like punchy colors and all this stuff. And it's just what you're showing your clients. Like I would be embarrassed to show a client, oh look what I shot, you know, and they're looking at the screen just like, yo, like what'd you shoot in, like 420p or something? So yeah, screen is like top priority. Sony, all these other things, you know, definitely has its place, but if you're not going to do anything else, for the love of God, you know, improve the screen. And you know, Sony has its marketing game, you know, down. Like they're all about living that YouTube douchebag life. They got all the YouTube douchebags on lock to review their cameras, so they're solid. Anyways, guys, did I miss something that you think is very important for Sony to do, you know, to keep moving forward in the industry? Let me know in the comments below. If you found this video interesting, insightful, entertaining, whatever, please guys, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, because it helps a lot. I don't really know how much it helps. I just hear other YouTubers say that it helps a lot, so I'm just copying them, to be quite honest with you. And yeah, until next time, lighten up.
Hey man, you use AI for your video?
Nah man, I don't use AI for my videos.
Oh my god, you're trapped. If you want to be the best, if you want to be professional, if you want to be award-winning, you need to use AI for your video.
And I'm trying to create authentic content.
Let me show you.
Hey man, what camera do you use? I mostly use Sony FX3. Oh my god, that camera is trash. If you want to be the best, if you want to be professional, if you want to be award-winning, you need to use the Panasonic S5 Mark IIX. Bro, the Panasonic S5 Mark IIX has a lot of rolling shutter, and 4K 60 is cropped. It has shutter angle, it has open gate. I don't care about all that. Let me show you.
That looked and sounded like we're about to fight each other in a 1970s kung fu movie.
Sign up for my realistic AI masterclass. Only $29.99.